See, you got to realize that I came to Hong Kong in 1992, and this was my very first visit outside India. And in the very first few months, I got a fairly good idea about what the Hong Kong Chinese lifestyle, so to speak, is all about. And I can only hope that those who have lived in Hong Kong for even a few years will agree with me that for the right or wrong reasons, the one peculiarity that stands out when you talk about Hong Kong Chinese is simply this, that they work hard and they play hard. And for the right or wrong reasons, I found them to be in a sort of one-track mind. The whole goal was to earn as much money as possible in the shortest possible time and use that to bring them options in life. And I couldn't fault it. I mean, who are you hurting after all? And gradually, I began to understand that this is their way of life and they have a right to it. Everyone is simply focused on just making as much money as possible, progressing in their career as fast as possible, so single-minded that they had no time for each other, basically. And that often came across to foreigners as being very impersonal. But the fact was, I don't think they mean to be impersonal. It's just like you. If you're focused on something, you possibly won't have time to focus on anything else. If you're really going to make that, put all your energy, all your effort, all your time into what you're passionate about, which is moving ahead. And what's so wrong in that? But in that very scenario, I found a niche. And the niche is really simple. Is that they are also interested in their own life, their own work, their own progress, that nobody has the time for anybody else. And then there was me, who had all the time in the world because I had just arrived. And the only thing I brought to the table was, number one, a wide understanding of a huge number of industries. Because I came from an editorial past, you see. And way back in my time, reporters or writers, features editors, we would interview sometimes more than around anywhere between 5 to 10 personalities in a day. Yeah, believe it or not. Sometimes I would start with, in the morning, I'd interview, let's say, Lind Chocolates. Then I'd go on to some Swiss private bank, then to some interior designer, then to some agricultural specialist, then to some cloning specialist, then to some top shot in the Atomic Research Center, and it went on and on and on. So when you come from that kind of a past, you are definitely not an expert on anything, but you have a fairly good grounding on a wide range of industries, and that's what makes you competent to speak to industry leaders who totally understand that you can't be as good as them, but at the very least, you are somewhat better versed in their industry than just some kid reporter who would come and ask you questions for the sake of asking questions. So that's one thing. And then, as many of you may or may not know, that I personally come from a very, very, very poor family. So I understood the importance, the value of empathy. And that enabled me to get behind the story that was behind the product or the service that these industry leaders in Hong Kong were putting out. Because nobody else wanted to, right? Everybody else in the media at that time was only interested in advertising and seeing how best you can get as much money as you can from these people. And then there was just only me. Poor old me. I would go to these Chinese brands and just say, listen, okay, this is a brand, what is it? Lee Kum Kee, Pa Fa Yao, whatever it may be. It's a global brand. You go to Australia, you go to UK, you go to America, you have Lee Kum Kee sauces. You have got all these Chinese brands available in most parts of the world. But who knows about the humble beginnings of these brands? Who knows about the story, the rich heritage behind these brands? And I think today, the customer, the consumer, wants to know. So that became my passion, and I started going to all these Hong Kong companies, whether it's Chinese, Japanese, Malaysian, Singaporean, Indian, British, American, never mind. If the brand was in Hong Kong, I wanted to know what that brand's DNA was, what was their founding principles, who was the family that started it, how did they start it. And I managed to unearth some amazing, mind-blowing stories. And when these people saw that I came there not just to take their money or to appease them, but I asked some very probing questions. And many of them used to tell me, we've never seen a reporter like you. And that's what became the foundation, the roots, so to speak, of what is today perhaps the oldest serving business magazine of Hong Kong. That is what Mediazone has been about. It's never been about us. It's about the people that we interview, the stories that we unearth, the values that we showcase. We present a multicolored, multidimensional picture of Hong Kong and its people for the rest of the world to not only enjoy, but to be inspired by. Because truly, the essence of Hong Kong is in the will, the vision, the successes, the failures, the trials, the setbacks, the tears, the sweat, the ambition, the disappointment, and the struggle against all odds. If Hong Kong is ever going to be remembered in history, perhaps it will be for this, for gifting to the world a redefinition of the term industry.